Hey all, Limmick 9 here, Battletech Bastion. Pardon. I've gotten a couple of requests to do a how-to on this one, so I'm going to go ahead and do it finally. I'm going to show you how to go from 1-inch pink polystyrene. Yeah, actually it doesn't matter what color you use, but foam to 3D Hex Terrain, or for hills. Pretty much use this for Battletech. But, you know, you can use it for other games too, I guess, that use hexes in whatever game system you might be using. But I'm going to show you the process of going through that. Okay, first of all, I'm going to go through a list of supplies you're going to need. First and foremost, obviously, some pink. I use 1-inch thick pink polystyrene for this. You can use whatever color you want, but you need that. You're going to need a couple brushes. You can use really shitty brushes for this project. It doesn't matter. A toothbrush. You'll see later. See why later. Pair of scissors. A razor knife of some kind for trimming the styrene. For this, I'll be using 3 shades of brown paint. I'll be using Apple Barrel brand. I'll be using, oh Christ, burnt umber, nutmeg brown, and country tan. You can use whatever colors you want. This is just what I'm using for this. You're also going to need green paint, some type of green paint. For this, I'll be using the Crayons H2O spray paint. That's just so I can do the top part painting quick. You're going to need some Sharpies of whatever color you want the dots for your hexes to be. You're going to need some cardstock, which is what I use. You are going to need, you might want to get an X-Acto knife for this. I don't have mine out right now, but yeah, an X-Acto knife. Now, obviously, you're going to need something to cut your foam with. I use Hotwire Foam Factory's scroll table. I think you've seen me use it before. This is what I use to cut my foam. I can get a nice 90-degree cut with it if I want. You can use you can cut it with whatever you want. So a lot of white PVA glue. You're going to need a lot of this. And lastly, flocking of some kind. Now, if you want to put flocking on, that's great. I do, but yeah. Oh, and you might want to get a can of matte seal, cheap matte sealer out too. I'll be using that eventually. It's just I don't have it out right now because I don't need it for a while. But yeah, that's a list of ingredients you're going to need. Oh, the flock I use is a mix of different colors of Woodland Scenics. You can use whatever brand you want, but this is what I use. But that's a general list of the supplies you're going to need for this project. So just thought I'd go through that list, and you know what's coming. All right, later. Okay, first off, I use a program called Heavy Metal Map. It allows me to print out custom hex maps for Battletech. I'll put a link down below to the program, but yeah, you're gonna need whatever size hexes you're gonna use. You're gonna need to print out that size hex onto your cardstock. I've already done this ahead of time, and this way will be for making your template. Now, the great thing about doing this is you can cut out whatever shape you want. These hexes happen to be I'm making some hills for someone else right now, and they play on 2-inch hex, so I printed out 2-inch hexes. So that's the size I'm going to be making today. Though normally I would play on a 1.5 inch hex, like this is right here. The previous hill I showed you. This is 1.5, but these are going to be 2 inch. Since the person I'm making these for plays on 2 inch, it's pretty simple. You can cut out what you just need to trim out the hexes after you've printed out. Now I know there's probably, I think there's some online places where you can print it, where you can do like free graph paper and stuff, where you put in the pattern you want. But like I said, the program I use is a Heavy Metal Map, and you can just print out. Alright, you get the basic idea here. I've already got my template print cut out, and this is what I'll be doing today. Oh, okay, you're going to want to take your template. It doesn't matter which side and place it on top of the foam. It doesn't matter which side, whether you have the line showing up or you don't. I'll flip them back and forth occasionally, just because sometimes the cardstock will start curling, and if I flip it, it'll solve that problem. Something else I failed to mention for a supply. I use push pins. You can use to hold the template down. You can use push pins, whatever you want, or thumbtacks, whatever you want. I prefer push pins because they're easy to put in and out of the template. This is just, like I said, you want to put it at the corners here because it'll hold it down while you're cutting it. And you don't want the template to shift any, because then once you get, it'll be really, you don't want your template to shift. So I'm going to put in the push pins. Alright, as you can see, I got all the push pins in. Now I'm going to have to get my scroll table set up, and then I can show you the cutting. Alright, got my scroll table set up, got it turned on, so let's get, just want to start cutting a lot and let your cardstock template be the guide. Don't worry about the hot wire touching the paper. As long as you keep it at a low enough temperature, it's not going to burn the paper and not going to be any problem. The wire only gets hot enough to melt through the foam, at least on this model, and it's really not going to damage the template that much. Okay, now we got that cutting, the initial cutting done. You basically want to go through and do any trimming that, you know, because that happens. Or if you want this stuff to be smooth, you're gonna have to go through and do the trimming. This is what you would need, what I would use the razor knife for. Just to basically go around, trim off some spots that are a little bit on the big side that I don't like. Corners are pretty notorious for being a little extra, but no big deal. And maybe do a little extra trimming with the knife, or the Yeah, that's pretty good. Now, if you want a perfectly smooth finish, you might want to get a small piece of sandpaper and just sand it smooth. I'm not really concerned with that, but this is just to show you. But again, just take a piece of sand. Okay, now this is the part where if you would need the toothbrush. That's just basically if you have any spider webs, you can clean them off with that, and that gets rid of them real quick. Terrainaholic gave me that tip, using a toothbrush to get rid of spider webs. Now you just take off the push pins or whatever you're using to hold the template down. Alright, take the template off, and right there is your hex hill, unpainted and unflocked. And the great thing is, you're going to want to keep the template. You can cut the same piece over and over again. And the great thing about this technique is you can cut these templates out in whatever shape you want. If you want a flower pattern, whatever, it doesn't matter. I've cut in many patterns. I mean, you can obviously tell this pattern, I've got two different patterns here. So, you know, and you can, if you do it this way, cut out several different patterns, you're going to have a very modular system when it's all said and done. Alright, the next step is you want to paint the top of your hill green. Or like I said, I like to use the H2O latex because it's spray paint, it gets it done quick, and I can spray can. You can use a brush on paint if you want, or you know, for those of you that have airbrushes, you could go that route too if you want. Actually, I'm hoping to go to an airbrush soon before long. But yeah, I'm going to spray paint the top here. I'll probably spray the sides too. But yeah, I'm going to go do that, and then I'll show you the results later, because you guys don't need to see me spray paint stuff. Alright, fortunately I have this piece that I had already done earlier, because the H2O paint takes forever to dry. So as you can see, it does dry with a bit of a gloss to it, and that's not going to be a problem because this is just an undercoat. So basically my next step is to start painting the sides. Well, I'm going to start off with the darkest brown I have, which is Apple Barrel's Burnt Umber. So, this is going to be a boring part, so I'll just go through it. Speed this up. Alright, so I got all the sides here done, as you can see. If you get a little bit up on the top, like say right here, don't worry about it, it's not that big of a deal. Top's going to be covered up with the flock eventually anyway. So I had to sit and let that dry before I get to the next color. Okay, that piece is dry. The sides are dry enough now that I can move on to the next color, which is, for what I'm using, is Apple Barrel's Nutmeg Brown. Like, again, you guys can use whatever colors you want. Like, say if you were trying to do a rocky side, you know, you'd be using grays. Or if you were trying to do like a snow hill, you'd be, you know. Okay, now obviously this is going to be more of a heavy dry brush or an overbrush because we don't want to get complete coverage on the sides here. So, here we go. Okay, well, that layer is done. I don't know how well you can see it in this light, but there's just a little bit of strip of the dark brown that's still left at the top. And just let this color dry, and then I'll move on to the next. See you in a few minutes.